Yo,
Yo.
hey, what's up, John? So you're here first. We just waiting for Mike.
I just came here for the drinks.
You just came here for the drinks?
Yo, if you're gonna discuss appetite for destruction, you know you got to be drinking.
Let me tell you, man, I still remember, and I waited, but I remember getting that album. I waited. Remember back in the days, you had Tower Records, you had Tower Book, and then you had that little Tower Record that was a few blocks away that was called like the Agnex or whatever.
The one on was it West Fourth?
Yeah, it was a little further. They had the one, but they little like a block away. They had another small one, and that's where they did all the autographs and stuff. They had like a smaller
Yeah, I
one.
saw. I saw Marilyn Manson there.
Yeah, I told you. You know what's funny? The day this album came out, um, also fucking Ozzy Osbourne had a fucking signing the same day.
Oh shit!
And I remember getting online. I remember I remember I lived on 37th Street and 9th Avenue. I remember going to fucking during the midnight sale, waiting online and getting the fucking album. They had to troop it back to 37th Street and 9th Avenue.
Hello,
That's
guys.
crazy.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
What's
I
up,
got
Mike?
Jonathan here. What's up, man?
How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm here, chilling like a villain.
All right, cool. You holding up all right, man?
Nah, it sucks. I'm still fucking working. Get my ass handed to me at Lowe's.
Oh, man. Wow. You
Fucking people are fucking savages.
Which Lowe's you working at? In Brooklyn?
Yeah, I'm Avenue U and Flatbush.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
the people I work with are great. The company's great. The customers are fucking not all of them, but a good chunk of them are fucking savages.
And things today, man, people are fucking going crazy, man. Like right
Mike,
now,
I've seen more fist fights in Lowe's than I have in the East Village with the drunks in the past 2 years.
I believe it. I totally believe it. Wow.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, it is what it is.
All right, guys. So let's get to business. This is the Rockshow 70, and we are talking about the making of Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction.
Right. And I want to thank John for coming on because I know he's a fan, so his input today.
I told Rob, I'm just here for the drinks. Because God knows there's plenty of that in this fucking album.
Oh, you should have seen Mike last night for the drinks.
Oh shit! Yeah, I was in the park, and I was there for a little while. I saw Boogie and a few people, and then I left, and I ended up stopping at a fucking deli by my house, and I had a party all by myself, man.
There you go. Hey, but you were social distancing, so that's okay.
Yes, I was keeping 6 feet away from myself.
So I think Rob has that normally when he jerks off because his cock is so huge.
Oh my god!
My God.
Wait a minute. This conversation got weird.
Jesus
I
Christ.
haven't even started drinking yet either.
Oh my God.
Oh,
So
man.
Mike and John, what you guys got for me today?
All right. We're going to talk about the making of this album. I want to give a little back history on Guns N' Roses. And John, just jump in whenever you feel like it. We've got some info, okay?
I know most of the drug stuff. That's I came here for the drinks. I know a lot of the as far as like the recording stuff goes. I'm not that learned in. I know a lot more of the stories of the parties, the drinking, and how things went south fast with this shit.
Well, at the end of the show, I want to talk a little bit about the legacy of the album and what the band meant to us, and we'll get into all that shit.
Of course.
All right. So the story of Guns N' Roses actually starts in 1984. Okay? There was a band called Hollywood.
Oh, John, what are you doing? I can hear it.
Sorry. I'll mute my mic. I'm told you I'm making a drink, bro.
Dad, sounds like I'm in I-Bar.
I know.
Sorry.
Hey, so let's start. What's up, Mike?
All right. So, the history of Guns N' Roses starts in 1984. There was a band in California called Hollywood Rose, and members Izzy Stradlin, okay, he was in that band, and he was living at the time with L.A. Guns member Tracy Guns. Now, L.A. Guns turned out they needed a new singer. Their singer got fired. So Izzy recommended Axl Rose, okay? It was a friend of his, and he said, yeah, he could sing. He could join your band. So by March of 1985, there was a lot of back and forth with this. They actually started a new band, okay? And it would feature Izzy Stradlin on rhythm guitar, Tracy Guns on lead. They had a Rob Gardner on drums and a bass player named Ole Beach, okay,
Yeah.
on bass, and Axl was singing. Now, they eventually got a new name for the band. It was going to be Guns N' Roses.
Yep.
And what they did is they took the name of Hollywood Rose and combined it with LA Guns.
Yep.
All right. So some other names were actually considered. Now, check this out. Did you ever hear this, John? Like any of the other names that they thought they were going to use? John?
I think he's making a drink.
Okay, let him make a drink.
Yeah.
One name that they were considering was called Heads of Amazon. And
I heard that.
Yeah, and another one was just AIDS.
Those names are terrible.
Imagine calling your band AIDS.
I heard, but didn't they play one show like that and they got mad?
No, it was all like stuff they considered. But their first gig, they were really Guns N' Roses. Now, the first show they played was on March 26, 1985, and immediately after that gig, the bass player Beach, he was fired, and he got replaced by Duff McKagan. All right. Now, an EP was planned right away. They were pretty well received right off the bat. They were thinking of some songs. It was going to be a short album, an EP. They had "Don't Cry." They already had that song written. They had "Think About You," "Anything Goes," and then there was a cover of Elvis's "Heartbreak Hotel."
Yep.
But there happened to be an argument between Axl Rose and Tracy Guns, and it ended up that they threw Tracy Guns out of the band, and he got replaced by Slash, who played formerly in Hollywood Rose with Izzy Stradlin.
But you know what? That's the best thing that could have happened to them. Slash coming in.
Yeah. Well, Tracy Guns went on with LA Guns, and they were okay. They didn't last that long, but I mean, actually, I think they're still around. But but their popularity never actually got anywhere as much as Guns N' Roses. I think they still play around, right, John?
Yeah, they do. Actually, that's why, like, they didn't last that long. They come and go, but they're not.
You know what it is? Those guys are in the West Coast more, so that's why we don't see them that much.
Yeah. Over the years,
they're not as talented. Let's be honest. And not that they're not talented. They're not as talented as Guns N' Roses.
They had that one album with that song "Ballad of Jane" that was okay.
They one-hit wonders.
Yeah,
all right,
that's the most, really.
Yeah.
Also, right after he got kicked out of the band, they would replace the drummer Gardner with Steven Adler, who was also in Hollywood Rose. So basically, Guns N' Roses is Hollywood Rose with Duff McKagan.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Now, here's my thing. How fucked up must you be as a human when Steven Adler is the one replacing you?
I don't know Adler's life situation was like when he joined the band, but by the time he left the band, he was a wreck.
Jesus Christmas.
The amount of dope he was doing was like off the hook.
He was lumped up.
Yeah.
Lumped up, bro. And I watched this on one of the shows. He could tranquilize a fucking small horse with the shit he was doing.
I know, and that's why they had to throw him out, because he was even so fucked up for them,
That says something.
Yeah. Now, ironically, Slash had also played in the band called Road Duff McKagan. So these guys all knew each other, all right? Now, the classic GNR lineup was set, and they played their first gig June 6, 1985 with that lineup. After about 9 months of excessive West Coast touring, and they were playing the Hollywood clubs like the Troubadour and the Roxy all the time.
Yeah, they played everything.
Yeah, they got signed to Geffen Records pretty easily. That was in March of 1986. They immediately got a $75,000 advance. Actually, what happened was
they actually released an EP also before, so people wouldn't forget about them.
Well, they were going to put the EP out right away. That was part of the deal.
Yeah.
But what they turned down was interesting, because Chrysalis Records offered them twice as much as an advance, but they would have had to change their sound and their image. And they were like, fuck that. So Geffen had, given them as much, creative, artistic freedom as they wanted. So they ended up going with them for that reason. It really wasn't about.
But think about how much $75,000. I mean, $75,000 is a lot of money now.
Yeah.
As I was saying, imagine it 30 years ago. Like, do the inflation numbers. That was probably like what, a couple of million now.
It's got to be probably at least $500,000, I would say, right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and they had to split it 5 ways. So maybe it was like $100,000 each now, if you did it now, you know. But they actually turned down that offer because of the artistic freedom that Geffen offered them. And it also had to do with the releasing of the EP. Now, at the end of '86, they did release the 4-song EP called Live Like a Suicide.
Yep.
And on that, they covered Rose Tattoo's Nice Boys and Aerosmith's Mama Kin. And they had 2 originals, a song called Reckless Life and a song called Move to the City. The album is not really a live album. I don't know if you know that. Okay?
No, it was recorded.
It was faked. What they did is it was actually demos that they, cleaned up a little bit, and they released it and crowd noises in. Okay, and we've talked about that before, Rob. Like Kiss Alive 2 and all that.
Yeah,
like that happens a lot more than you think. The album was released on the Uzi, and that was that kind of Guns N' Roses was watching over this label. There was like bands that they liked would end up on Uzi Suicide. One band that comes to mind is Hanoi Rocks. Now, Hanoi Rocks was a huge influence on Guns N' Roses, but their albums were very hard to find. They were a band from Finland. Everything was an import except their last album, which was the 2 Steps from the Move, that was released here, but then Vince Neil killed their drummer in that accident. So, that was the end of Hanoi Rocks. But it was hard to find their albums. And in the late 80s, early 90s, Uzi Suicide under Geffen re-released them in the United States for the first time. So that was cool that they did that. That one EP, though, Live Like a Suicide, they only made 10,000 vinyl copies of it. So it's very rare if you have it.
Wow.
Do you have it, John, or no?
No. I have, but I do have Appetite for Destruction on vinyl.
Do you have it with the original cover?
Yes.
The one with the robot, the robot raping the girl?
Yeah, like the monster.
No. I have the one with the fucking
the thing jumping over the fence. That's what he means, because it was based on a painting that kind of looked like that, but they changed it, like with the creature with all the knives in its mouth jumping over the door.
Yeah.
That was weird.
It is weird. It is weird. And, I don't remember, and I couldn't find in my research, but I could have sworn that Slash had something to do with that artwork. Does that ring a bell with you, John?
Really?
I know.
I know he was doing a lot of art stuff back then.
He knows.
I don't know if
draws. He's autistic like that.
Yeah.
I could have sworn that it was something that he modified on the original thing to make it look like that, but I never could find anything when I was researching the show. So I don't know. Something I remember hearing like years ago.
Painting for Destruction was by artist Robert Williams. Yeah. The fact that the number of music stores refused to stock it, album, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not saying that Slash did it. That's weird.
I saw that same thing, and it didn't say, but I remember an interview. Maybe it was on MTV. I don't remember where, but I can remember him talking about it and them saying that he was involved in the design of it. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm not sure, but I think he may have. In early of '87, they began the process of like pre-producing the debut album. And what they did is Geffen brought in a guy named Spencer Proffer, and he had done Quiet Riot's Metal Health album, okay, as well as a few others through the 80s. And what they did is they went into the studio and they recorded a few songs with him just to see if he could work with the band. And they had done like early versions of Sweet Child of Mine, Night Train, and several others. They also did some demos with the band Nazareth's guitarist. The guy's name is Manny Charlton. He was brought in as a possible person to produce. And interesting enough, they also brought in Paul Stanley from Kiss. They were considering him. But him and Steven Adler didn't hit it off because apparently Stanley wanted to change his drum kit around in other ways to get a different sound, and Adler didn't like that. So they didn't work good together. He was rejected. They also brought in a guy named Mutt Lang, okay, who was a very well accomplished producer. He worked with everybody from AC/DC to the Cars, okay, but Geffen thought he was too expensive, so he was ruled out. So finally, what they did, they found a guy named Mike Klink, okay, and Mike Klink was well accomplished but not well known, okay. He had worked mostly with that band Triumph, okay, and he was brought in, and he, came at a good price, and he got along well with the band, so it appeared that, he would be the good fit. Now, at the end of January in '87, the band entered Daryl Dragon's Rumbo Recorder Studio to start doing basic tracks. Now, do you know who Daryl Dragon is, guys?
Who?
I do not.
Okay, Daryl Dragon's studio. Daryl Dragon is the captain of Captain and Tennille.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so, if you think about it, Guns N' Roses recorded their album in the captain's recording studio.
That's funny, man.
Yeah, you wouldn't even thought there'd be a connection with them, right?
Nah, never, man.
Yeah. So they did these early versions of these songs. They, once they started doing the basic tracks, they did that for about 2 weeks. And then they had about another month of overdubs. Drum tracks were done in about 6 days. It didn't take long for Adler to do them. Axl Rose's vocals, on the other hand, that held back the recording.
That was a pain in the ass because he was doing it one line at a time.
Exactly. He would want to do his lines one at a time, stop, do the next line, stop, and it just took like days and days and days to go through the album. And the other band members just left the studio. They're like, "Fuck it, we're not even sticking around for this." Mike Klink was actually working his ass off. He was working like 18-hour days to put together all the best takes that he had for the album. The one problem that they had when they were doing the original basic tracks was Slash wasn't happy with his sound, okay, of his leads. And what's interesting is you'd think that going into recording your first album, you'd know what your sound was going to be as a lead guitarist, but he didn't, okay? What he did was he eventually settled in on a Gibson Les Paul, okay, and it was plugged into a specific Marshall amp that he liked. But I find that funny because you would think that he would have had that down going into it, that he wouldn't have had to experiment with different guitars. And I kind of wonder how that went down. What was the mentality behind that? What was he doing before that with the live shows? He wasn't playing that Les Paul, I guess?
Maybe not. And also, he probably wanted to get that sound, because that sound, when that sound came out, it was a sound that you never heard a guitar do. It was like fucking very loud, very like, shit, this is great.
Yeah,
maybe he couldn't afford it.
That could be. No, it definitely. Yeah, I mean, money was definitely an issue early on. I'm sure.
I mean, the cost of making the album itself was what, I think $400,000 or $300,000.
Yeah, 370. Yeah, 370.
Again, back then, making the album for that much now is I don't want to say a lot, but I mean that's a good chunk of change. Imagine back in the '80s. That's insane.
And Geffen was a small label then. I mean, they were big, but not that big. Okay.
Yeah.
And they actually threw all their weight behind Guns N' Roses. All right. And they took a chance and they gambled and they won big time.
They won huge time.
Yeah. Now, I just find it hard to believe that he didn't have that sound figured out, that he had to realize I'd need a Les Paul. But like you say, maybe he never played one before. Maybe
Les Pauls to this day are not cheap. They're not cheap guitars at all.
No, they're not. Not at all. Okay, he played.
So if you're, I mean, you're talking about guys who are living off of groupies for how long? So they they might not be able to afford a Les Paul fucking one. So now, I mean, once the studio says, hey, you have Carte Blanche, what do you want, motherfucker? I want a Les Paul.
I wonder if he was playing like a Fender or something before that, or what kind of instrument he was.
Maybe
he was definitely playing something very different. Because then when he heard that sound, like he really fucking took the sound and made it his own.
Yeah, I agree. Now, like you said, Rob, the whole album was made for $370,000, and all the final overdubs were done at Media Sound Studios, and then the final masterings were done at Sterling Sounds here in the city.
Hang on one second. So Slash's first electric guitar was a copy of Gibson's Explorer, given to him by his grandmother.
It wasn't.
There you go.
Yeah, it wasn't a Les Paul though.
No. No, it wasn't. And it's saying here, he tried other few instruments before adopting his definite Les Paul guitars when he could finally afford one. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
He could finally afford one.
Maybe there was one in the studio that he was like, "Hey, let me try this."
Let me see what it's. I mean, if you play guitar, every guitarist wants to play Les Paul, and I love them. I don't think I've ever played one because I can't see spending $1,500 for a fucking guitar.
Well, I've got a couple of them. So one day I'll show you what I got.
Oof.
And, we'll talk about it if you want to play one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the writing process for the album was kind of varied on the tracks. Different tracks were written by different band members. Sometimes the way they did it is they would write something alone and then present it to the band. So, for example, like the song "It's So Easy," that was written by Duff McKagan. And "Think About You" was written by Izzy Stradlin. But "Rocket Queen" was written by Slash, McKagan, and Adler while they were still in the band Road Crew. And it was kind of like an incomplete song when it was presented to the band. So they all finished it and wrote it together. "Anything Goes" was written by the Hollywood Rose Band, okay, and then was kind of rewritten by GNR. There's an album called The Roots of Guns N' Roses, and it's different bands that influenced them and bands covers of stuff they did, the originals, and you can hear the Hollywood Rose version on there of that song. It's a little bit different. Most of their songs were written about their life experiences and people they knew. "Welcome to the Jungle" is about a guy Axl met in New York City after arriving there from Indiana in 1980. Mr. Brownstone's about heroin addiction. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something the band, knew about firsthand. Okay. "Out to Get Me" is kind of about Axl Rose's constant trouble with the law in Indiana when he was a teenager. I always liked the simplicity of their lyrics. They were just kind of everyday shit, just people that you meet, women, men, whatever, but crazy people. And these guys were on the street practically. When they started, these guys were they didn't really have much. Axl Rose came out of Indiana he ran away, right? Didn't he leave his family?
He got the hell out.
Well, he came from a Southern Baptist background, and it just wasn't working for him. So he left Indiana. I think he first went to New York, and then from there he went to L.A. And I can't imagine what his story was here, though, in 1980. That had to be crazy. Just showing up like that.
Yeah.
John, when did you first hear Guns N' Roses? When the album came out?
No. Okay. So the album was out. I want to say 6 months. My brother actually, he's the one who got the vinyl album, which is why I have it here because I think he left it here. Uh-huh. And we listened to it. I was still into the scaringly enough Billy Joel fucking phase of learning. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. That's what got me his music originally was Billy Joel.
That's awful.
Harmonics.
That's awful.
You know what? Leave me alone. I was fucking you old cocksuckers. I was only 10 years old. So you know what? Leave me alone.
I was 10 once, and I still hated Billy Joel.
But I like the harmonics of it. And I like the fact he was telling stories. All right, whatever.
I'm fucking.
And then, no, I know. And then he gave me. So I started hearing, Appetite for Destruction. And then my cousin Paige visited from the West Coast.
Yeah.
And she showed me skinheads and punks and the Mohawks. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
I was scared shitless. And then she used to introduce me to the Sex Pistols. And that's when I was like, oh. Right. So there's other stuff that tells stories that isn't just doo-wop shit. And that's when I started saying, oh, can I hear it? My brother's like, no, fuck you, get your own. and there was no internet back then, so I had to find my own way of listening to it. So I actually had gotten, I didn't get the vinyl, I got the cassette tape.
Sure.
And it fucked me up how there was no A or B.
It was G and R.
And I didn't understand that for the longest time.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I want to get back to the artwork a little bit here. All right,
Of course.
just so we can totally get to the bottom of it. Now, the original cover art was done by Robert Williams. Okay, it was a painting based on his painting, and the painting was actually called Appetite for Destruction, and it depicted a robot rapist about to be punished by a large metal avenging type creature. So that's kind of what you see. Okay, several music retailers wouldn't carry the album with that cover.
Nah.
Well, because the boobs were out. That was the biggest thing that I
Well,
I
it was
remember
also
was
like violent looking,
Yeah.
with the mouth full of knives coming down, and Geffen had to kind of compromise with this, and they ended up putting that picture inside the album, and then get a new cover design, which was the one we know with the Celtic style cross. Now that was designed by an artist named Billy White Jr., and it was originally supposed to be a tattoo. Okay. And I think Axl has that tattooed on his arm, doesn't he? I think he does.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he has it on his forearm. So eventually it would get tattooed. But the Celtic cross was also kind of like a tribute to the Irish band Thin Lizzy.
Yeah.
Okay, and because Axl was a big Thin Lizzy fan, and Rob, we're going to do a show on Thin Lizzy over the summer. All right?
Yep.
Definitely. Now, on vinyl records and cassette copies, the A side was called G, like you said, and the B side was called R. All right, and I thought I didn't know I knew why they did that for Guns N' Roses, but I didn't know that they actually put specific songs on each side, and I don't know if I even agree with it because they said that the songs about drugs and hard life was on the G side, and songs about love or sex-related stuff was on the R side. But what's Rocket Queen then?
Yeah, see, my thing with that also was back in the day. I mean, nowadays we don't do that anymore, to my knowledge. But albums had a flow. There was the start of the album. There was an A side and the B side. The B side was the songs that weren't as good, but they were still good. But you put on the B side. But the album had a flow to it. You hear it from A to B, and knew it went somewhere. So to say that we just put these songs on one side because they reference these things, I wasn't too keen on that idea either.
Well, I mean, just the example of Rocket Queen. What's Rocket Queen about? I always took it as like a chick shooting dope constantly.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so there you go. The hard drugs thing was the last song on side 2, the R side. So that doesn't match what it says, unless because it's about a girl.
I think it's because of a girl, because the second side was pretty much about girl, like My Michelle, Sweet Child Ma. It was all about women and like stuff like that. Because if you look at the album, they put 6 songs and 6 songs on each side, right?
Right.
And it got a great flow because the first song is like the welcome to Guns N' Roses. This is who the fuck we are.
Right.
And that song is so fucking high pitched, so fast, and so loud that you're like, what the fuck? And then the rest of the album goes into like this fucking weird kind of motion, and then you end with the fucking girl shooting up heroin. But it was a girl.
But because it was about a girl, so it made the R side.
And you
never mind
understand
the drug part.
That when they did this album, they got songs that they put in loser illusion, I like to call it. So that was a shit album.
Loser illusion. Which one? 1 or 2? You fuck.
Both of them were terrible.
Loser illusion. Yeah.
Loser
illusion 1 and 2.
So they wanted to put on this album. They wanted to put Please Don't Cry. They wanted to put also November Rain. You Will Be Mine. All these songs they already had, and you see how long it took them to take out, because they didn't take another album, like a real album, and then they took out a double album, and there was scumbags and tried to charge people twice.
Yeah, that was a bad deal. That turned me. I was getting turned off from them already by that point, but when they did that kind of, I don't think I listened to them for years.
Now, do you think and I hate to jump off the bandwagon of the first album, but do you think that was more them or the company, the fucking record company, saying "fuck you, we need our money back. Let's go. Stop putting albums out."
You mean it was Geffen's idea to do the double charging, kind of like that?
Meaning, yeah. I mean, because if you got to figure, so I mean, if you look in the history of bands, especially back in that day, they put an album out. If it was a hit, they had to put another album out within a year or 2 tops. So if you take 3-4 years off, like fuck you, you owe us an album. Get it out there now.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses were weird because they took out like they did that album, right? That album was, you know what? That album was on the charts for a long time.
Yeah,
Not
like
only that, that
147
album,
weeks.
yeah, that album, dude, that album was like one of the best-selling album. It did fucking 30 million copies,
Yeah.
right? Then
But
it
what?
was
But what did it
fucking
debut as, though? What did it debut as?
It
it debuted at
debuted at 182.
yeah
Yep.
Okay, in the
182.
top 200, and it didn't move for a long time until they started getting some video airplay on MTV with "Welcome to the Jungle" and
Dude, it took him a year. It
It,
took him a year from the day that
oh,
they released
right,
the album, and then a
number
year
one.
later they were on the fucking. They were number one for 4 weeks in a row.
You know what I remember at that time is they were touring like crazy, and I was starting to hear about them here. Okay, like somebody played. It was before the album came out. Okay, I had heard of them. They had done some shit on the West Coast, and somebody that I knew came from California back and said about this band, and they were telling me about it. And they had a cassette of like a live thing. I think it was a show from the Whiskey. And he had like one song from the show recorded on the tape and some other shit. But the one song he had was Mr. Brownstone. And that was the first song I ever heard from them. It wasn't even released yet. And I was like, that's a cool fucking song. And, you know, it was like off the board recording on a cassette. So it was good quality that I was listening to it.
Yeah.
And then they released the album, and they were still touring like crazy. And I remember they played. I was at the show. They played CBGB's in 1988. They played the what used to be called the Gallery. Okay, and it was like a Sunday, I think, acoustic show. All right, and I went to this with like two other people, and it was packed. And I got in, and you know they did. It was like listening to the Lies album. Okay, they did like everything acoustically, and they just did like except Welcome to the Jungle was like partially electric. Like Slash played a little something through the amp, and afterwards they were like talking to people, and I got to talk to Izzy, who was like very cool, and I just said a couple things to Slash, but Axl, he wouldn't talk to nobody. Nobody. He was just an asshole. And what are you gonna do? Okay.
You know what's funny? I was there when he got beat up by Tommy Hilfiger.
Oh God!
Oh, I remember that. Where was that?
Because it was in this place on 14th Street. It was like this after hours club, and everybody's there, and some shit went down.
No,
it was fucking hysterical.
Wasn't it about a chick or something?
It was like Tommy's wife. He was bagging Tommy's wife.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, was it Tommy's wife? Okay.
Yeah, it was it was crazy. And you want to hear something? So Guns N' Roses, I got the album at a midnight sale. Because Ozzy Osbourne released an album also. He had a midnight signing at Tower Records, but it was the little Tower Records. Because back then Tower Records
had the whole block there.
They had three stores. They had the store, they had the bookstore, they had the record store, and then they had like a little store where they did autographs and stuff like that.
On Lafayette on the corner.
So I went there and I got there early. I was there like at 9:00 and I waited and I was gonna buy this album. I wound up buying the cassette of Guns N' Roses and the vinyl. And I think for me it was like probably like $30 everything together. Yeah. And I ran out of money. I had to walk all the way from fucking from Lafayette to Hell's Kitchen, and it was a walk from hell.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you didn't run anyway. You walked. You ain't running. Come on.
No, walk. We walked, man.
It was a brick walk.
I still got, and then you know what's funny? So you know who loved Guns N' Roses? NWA. Yeah. To the point they named a song "Appetite for Destruction," and there was one point that NWA and Guns N' Roses were supposed to tour together. Yeah. Imagine that shit would have happened.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. I mean, but right off the bat, as soon as that album got big, maybe not even number one, let's say 6 months into it, I just got an impression that you started hearing these stories about Axl. I'm like, this band isn't going to last. like all these fucking stories of his ego and
It's the LVS, man. Lead vocalist syndrome.
yeah, I guess.
Oh yeah, he was terrible,
Yeah,
man.
and but what killed it for me too is when Izzy left, and because he was my favorite. I thought he was cool. He was like a Keith Richards type, a little bit like Andy McCoy in Hanoi Rocks, and I thought that he was like a quiet Beatle. You know what I mean? He's just very cool in the background, and that's what I liked about him. When he left the band, I said, wow, this guy's like, he founded the band practically, okay? And he's leaving. What's going on in that band? It's not good,
You know what? The egos, the shit got crazy.
He can't work with
dude.
Axl. He's a fucking maniac.
Dude, let me tell you, I went to that fucking Giant Stadium concert with Metallica and fucking Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Oh, where he stormed off?
And fucking Metallica came out, started fucking rocking the house. People go, this guy came in 3 songs in. He fucking pulled the plugs, get the fuck off the stage.
Yeah.
And the next thing that happened, I probably stole like 6-7 beers because shit hit the fan.
Oh, man.
Did you really?
Wow.
Oh, there was people leaving the beers full. People just fighting and throwing them. They almost destroyed Giant Stadium that day. There was a full-blown riot.
Isn't that also when what's his face, where he burnt his fucking arm up?
No, that was in another one. The guy lead singer of
Oh,
Metallica.
James Hetfield? Yeah. No,
that
that's not
was a different show where he stormed off stage.
he stormed off. No, he did it like a week later. He did it in Los Angeles. He stormed off the stage. This guy from Metallica got burned up. But this motherfucker, Axl Rose, somebody threw like a fucking lighter and hit him right in the dick, man.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
And he fucking laughed.
He used to jump in the audience, too, and attack people.
No, but you know what?
For the camera. Yeah, I saw that video. On the camera.
Right.
Guys, you know what's actually happened? People wondered when Guns N' Roses came out, people were still screaming for Metallica because they outdid Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
They came out there, and people like, hey, bring back Metallica, you guys suck.
Yeah.
It was like, holy shit.
Well, I wouldn't say they sucked, but let's be honest. Metallica back in the day, they put on a fucking show of shows.
Oh, yeah.
They were, I mean, they were kissed to the 10th degree. They didn't have the makeup or the fireworks. They had their pyros, but they were fucking amazing.
I saw Metallica on the Master of Puppets tour, all right? And they were opening for Ozzy, and it was just fucking incredible. Burton was still in the band. It was right before he died. And I saw them on the And Justice for All tour. Nassau Coliseum, I think it was. Yeah.
I seen Metallica live a bunch of times. You know who was the opening band for that show? Also, Faith No More.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were big.
I thought they sucked.
No, they sucked.
Really?
I never liked them. But I know people that
See, I guess I'm the odd man out. I absolutely love Mike Patton. I think he's batshit crazy. I've seen them fucking 5 or 6 times. I think they're amazing.
You like the Mr. Bungle stuff and all that too?
Bungle is okay, but see, I'm a kind of a purist. If you're playing shit that makes no sense, just is noises, it does nothing for me. You have to have a format to your music,
right?
So Bungle gets a little bit too much. They actually just played recently. Bungle, I want to say about 6 months ago, in Brooklyn, and tickets were like $400. It was fucking insane.
A friend of mine went. I don't think he paid that much though. I don't recall.
He probably got them fucking legit
early.
Yeah,
I think he got them early. Let's just talk a little bit more about the album here. I'll get back to it for a second. Now, originally, the album cover wasn't even going to be that Appetite for Destruction. What Axl had in mind was he was thinking of the Space Shuttle Challenger exploding as to be the album cover. And Geffen Records said, hell no.
Yeah, that's too tacky.
Yeah,
no, you can't do that.
It was just, it was hurtful, really, pretty much to put that on there. The album, like we said, it was released July 21st, 1987. It got very little interest from the radio at the beginning, all right? And the American press wasn't really interested in them at all. The only people playing them at all in the beginning was in California, like regionally, all right? But they were also up against some major competition.
Aerosmith.
Yeah, you had Aerosmith's Permanent
Def
Vacation,
Leppard.
Def Leppard's Hysteria, and also U2 was all over the place back then.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, August 6th, in 1987, they were at 182 in the Billboard chart. A year later, they would be at number 1. But it was the release of Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, and Sweet Child of Mine that kind of like slowly percolated them to number one. Welcome to the Jungle didn't do it. It didn't get the album to number one. The song did well on the singles charts, but it didn't get the album to number one. But it was a combination of like those three songs, Jungle, Paradise City, and Sweet Child of Mine, that would get them to number one 1 year later, and they would stay there for 4 weeks.
You know what was that video for Paradise City was such an iconic video with the whole, like, that was a great MTV, and they did a lot of press. But you know what the thing is? So when this album actually came out, and you know what? It got panned by the critics.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that they were kind of like derivative of Aerosmith, derivative of Hanoi Rocks, ripping those bands off. I didn't think that.
Nah.
But it also goes to show you how important or how influential MTV was back in that day.
Well, they could make or break you.
Yeah, and it's sad to say that.
Yeah. But by 88, if you were being played on MTV, your album was selling. But plain and simple. Okay, maybe not number one, but you were even shows that they had late at night, like the alternative.
120 minutes to Old Nation, yeah, man.
That was great.
If you were a band that was underground and you got on that show, you got bumped up in the charts.
Oh, of course,
yeah, like the Meat Puppets, a lot of those bands got their stardom there.
One band I could think of off the top of my head that MTV made like that was alternative was Soul Asylum.
Oh yeah,
all right, Soul Asylum. I knew who they were. I'd actually seen them a couple of times. They were okay. And then they had that song "Runaway Train."
Yeah, I saw them live. They sucked.
Yeah, I saw them early on. They were better. I know they sucked later. That was the thing. They had that hit that they didn't know what kind of sound to have anymore.
Yeah.
Well, that's Matt Pinfield. Matt Pinfield was huge with that MTV bringing the unknown bands in and promoting them, which is great. But that's also more towards the 90s, and we're still back in the 80s.
Yeah, this is still like 80, 88.
Yeah.
You had. I don't even think you had. Did you have Headbangers Ball in 88? I'm not sure if that was.
I'll find out right now what year that was. Hang on.
I think that was the beginning of Headbangers Ball. I think that was one of the things. I think Headbangers Ball started, but that way it got more popular. I think it was
1987. April 18th, 1987 is when it debuted.
Yeah, that's when it got popular.
Right when that album got released, that's when Headbangers was on. And but speaking of Headbangers, it's like Slash is on record saying that he never expected that album to sell the way it did at all. They never were looking for that number one. They wanted to be on a level of like Motorhead, okay, where just consistently sell, consistently tour, make your money from touring. They thought they were going to be that kind of band, okay, but they got so big, even though I don't want to say fast, it took a year. But in that time, it was like a slow burn, it was building up. Then they got a number one. But after that, they went off the rails.
Dude, but let me tell you, this is the best-selling debut album of all time.
It still is.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it's number 11 as the best-selling album of all time. Number 11 in the chart as the best-selling album of all time.
Right.
And then it sold 30 million copies. There's guys that in one career sold 30 million copies. These guys did it in one album.
Yep. But
and
again, they shot themselves in the foot, I always felt, by not releasing anything else sooner. Okay?
Yeah.
Because
they took a long time.
They took too long. They put out Lies like a year and a half later. But Lies was all old material. They were just re-releasing the EP, with a couple of other songs like One in a Million and stuff like that.
You know what the problem was? I think it was Axl. Axl was always the problem. He wanted to take out a perfect album.
I don't
think he wanted a perfect album. I think he wanted complete control. I think it was, again, the lead singer vocal syndrome where, his mentality is, I am this band and fuck you and what I say goes and that's it.
The rest of you guys are my back.
Exactly.
I'm going to.
He is Gladys Knight and y'all are the pimps. And like, no, motherfucker, that ain't the case.
Dude, you want to hear something crazy about this album?
What's that?
In 2008, September 2008, it became 18-time platinum.
That was 2008. They say now it's like over 30.
It probably is, but I mean, 2008. Think about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's Use Your Illusion would have been to me one album that probably wasn't that good, but instead it was two albums that was just crap.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
You know what? If they would have put the best song of each of those albums, they probably would have had a very good album. But they put one or two songs in separate albums. They sucked.
You know what? Too is Axl was doing a lot of stupid shit with his vocals. Okay, that I hated on Use Your Illusion. Is it Don't Cry? The one at the end where he stretches his vocals out for like fucking 10 minutes.
Yes.
What's the song that ends like that? I think it's Don't Cry. And
between that and November Rain, they were.
I just find it funny how y'all haven't even mentioned the spaghetti experience.
Well, I was about to. No.
That's a great album.
What I was gonna say. No, what I was gonna say is they redeemed themselves for me slightly when the spaghetti incident came out, because I mean, even though it was an album of covers, it was good covers, good songs to pick.
I love that album.
Dead Boys, T-Rex, a bunch of others. And I fucking loved it. I still listen to that album once in a while. I think that's one of their best.
Yeah, I love that album. That's crazy. That's a great album. But the problem is, they got fucking smashed with all this other shit. That holy crap, man. They could have.
That album came out, nobody gave a fuck. It just, But they, what I thought was cool about that too was it showed the different things that they were listening to, their influences. Like Duff McKagan is like the resident punk rocker of Guns N' Roses. Right? He knows all about hardcore bands. He was the guy wearing like the TSOL shirts on stage, and the Ramones and stuff. Slash like the Ramones, and like that. And then they were also doing T-Rex songs. I mean, that was cool.
But the Ramones were very high on Guns N' Roses.
Well, because Guns N' Roses was high on them, so they were kind of like returning the favor. They would say in interviews that they listened to Guns N' Roses a lot. I don't know if that was really true or not. It might have been. But if you look at those bands that were out in 87, 88, 89, hair metal was like at the end there. They got lumped in with the hair metal bands, but I don't really consider them a hair metal band. Do you,
No,
John?
not at all.
Nah.
Hair metal to me is like Poison. And, I mean, even Def Leppard, some of their stuff is hair metal. I think some's not, but I mean,
Motley Crue was hair metal, and Poison and Rat and Cinderella.
Yeah, those guys
metal.
Absolutely. The biggest thing with hair metal to me is Poison. I like, and don't get me wrong, I do like a good Poison song, but it's poppy, it's pop metal bullshit.
It is, and the first album is listenable by Poison.
You know what? That album, first album, even Motley Crue, Girls, Girls, Girls. I love that album.
Yeah, by then I kind of was sick of them. I liked the earliest shit, Shout at the Devil and stuff like that. I liked.
That was good too, but I did like the Girls, Girls. They had some songs that I was like, all right, this is fucking great.
Yeah, no, and they put on a pretty good live show too. Yeah, I mean, they're not really hair metal. They kind of get lumped in with that. I kind of keep them separate from that in my head. I don't like to think of them in the same thing as Poison.
Not at all. But I think hair metal. I think and I hate to say this, but fucking like Poison and fucking Van Halen, like the spandex wearing, high teeth hair, makeup, dancing, smiling, kind of. And Guns N' Roses to me were more Metallica. They're more just drinking whiskey, fucking chicks, and just not giving a shit.
Van Halen, I don't think too much as the hair bands, but I know what you're saying, because they started early. They started in what, 77?
Yeah, but seeing David on stage doing the spin kicks and man, I'm here, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, especially when he had his solo album.
Yeah. So that's to me. That's
one thing I can tell you. One thing I can tell you, if you heard Guns N' Roses, they were loud. They were just fucking loud.
Oh yeah, they were.
Holy shit!
Do you remember when they played the Ritz, John?
I do not actually. Okay,
they played the Ritz.
I know it was like what? 2, I know it was like 2 a.m, right? He was super fucking late as always.
It wasn't that late. You know what? Because I saw it on HBO. and I don't think it was live. I think it was like from the day before or something. You know what I mean? Like they played it the next day. So maybe they did go on at 2 a.m. But I remember that being on like an HBO special, and it was just when they were starting to break. You know, I think Welcome to the Jungle was out, and there they were at the fucking Ritz, man. I mean, that was fucking amazing. You know, I know people that went to that show.
I remember it was like one of them. They were like, "Yeah, that's what's going on." Like, because I think it was that show. That was supposed to go on at like 10 o'clock because it was being recorded for MTV or HBO, whatever it was.
Wasn't that?
And they were like, he didn't show up till like 3 a.m, all fucked up.
Oh, wait. You know what? I'm remembering it wrong. You're right. Okay, it's not HBO. It was MTV.
Yeah.
That was showing it. It wasn't HBO. It was MTV.
And they were like, dude, where the fuck is he?
Late.
Where is he? Where is he? And he's like, he'll be here eventually.
Yep. And they kept talking. They had to run with it. You know, keep talking, and they finally went on. That's right. That was MTV.
And they were pissed.
I know the producers were pissed. Do you remember when they had the pay-per-view event with the Stones?
No, that I don't remember at all.
Oh, at Atlantic City. I forget what casino, but one of the casinos had it was a Stone show with Guns N' Roses opening up.
You know, back then it was either Trump. It was either the Trump
Taj,
or I don't think
it was Caesars.
I think it was Caesars. I don't think it was Trump.
Those are the only two big ones back in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true. I saw some shows at the Trump one. And what happened was, I remember paying for this. I don't remember how much it was. Maybe it was like $30 or something, which is a lot of money back then.
Back then, it was huge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you got to see Guns N' Roses do a set, and then the Stones do a set, and they weren't like the Stones will play for 3 hours. They weren't doing that. They were playing for like an hour and a half. And
90 minutes each.
Yeah. And at one point during the Stone set, Axl comes back out, and they do a duet of "Salt of the Earth," which is one of my favorite Stone songs.
Oh shit!
Okay, off the Beggars Banquet album, and it's one that they very, 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 very rarely do. And I'd like to look for a clip of that because I haven't seen it in years. But it was a damn fucking good fucking show with that, man. Definitely when they did that.
I don't remember that. Mind you, I might not have had cable back then.
Yeah. You had to have.
Not everyone had cable.
No, that's true.
They got pictures of that. They got pictures of Axl Rose and Mick Jagger singing.
Axl singing with a leather jacket on, like a Misfits jacket, like with the bones on it.
Oh wow!
I think it's like white, black and white, or white on black on white, or white on black. I forget which way it went, but I remember him wearing that. And for a minute there, I was really into that band. For about a year maybe. Okay, and then they just imploded. But for a while, what amazed me was that you were hearing these loud guitars on the fucking radio. It was like, wait a minute, it didn't sit right. You know what I mean? It was like kind of like when Nirvana came a couple of years.
Oh
later.
My God!
I was like, wow, wait a minute, what the fuck, man? This stuff is getting played on the radio. It's like.
Yeah, it was all over the place. That's the thing that they were playing all over the place,
and everybody liked them too. Okay, I knew punks that liked Guns N' Roses even if they didn't want to admit it. People that would shit on anything top 40. Okay, they even liked it. So for a while there, everybody was really into them, but then they just became assholes, unfortunately.
They ruled the world, man. They were like the top of the world, but I think the biggest problem that Guns N' Roses had was, they were young, they were doing a lot of drugs, and Axl wanted complete control. Once you got a lead singer that wants complete control, sometimes you're like, fuck this.
When you see the thing, when you think you know everything and you don't need the guys around you, you're fucked. And I can say that just personally recently, because I just recently got back together with an old guitarist friend of mine, and we've started putting some things together. And I said to him, we've been playing off and on for 20 years. I'm like, and we sell out places anywhere we go. I realized a long time ago, I think he's getting a little older in the tooth. He gets it now too as well, that we just have that chemistry. When you have that chemistry with someone, you might hate each other, but if you musically work well, you got to just work with that. I think Axl to this day, and I heard this from people who've worked, because I know a guy who played with Axl. This guy Ron Thal, who was in Bumblefoot, he took when Axl went on the road by himself with Guns N' Roses. He played guitar for them with Buckethead, and he's like, listen, he goes, he's I think starting to learn to calm the fuck down. That, you know, the ego isn't going anywhere, and you're tarnishing your legacy. And everyone recently who's seen that on tour is like, listen, he came out when he went AC/DC, when they toured it down, he did double duties singing AC/DC and Guns N' Roses. The old Axl would have never done that. He'd been like, fuck you, I'm not singing twice.
Right.
Now he's doing it. So I think hopefully he's like, you know what? I was an asshole. I'm not anymore. People change. That's all I can say.
Well, you know, I'll hand it to him then if that's true. You know, it's not too late to redeem yourself. But if they ever get back together, you know, maybe they got one more album. But who knows if that could ever happen?
I mean, you think about how much shit was given to them. I mean, I watched a documentary on the fucking, and don't yell at me, the fucking, what was it, the New Kids on the Block. And the bouncers were saying that the moms were fucking them to get the daughters backstage. The bouncers, not the band. The bouncers were getting laid more just to get the daughters backstage. Yeah. So imagine that free, not the whole Me Too movement, but imagine that free pussy, that free everything, free booze, free drugs. I'd be an asshole. I know about that one.
Wow. It was funny. You can make fun of New Kids, but they ruled the world also. At one point, they were the biggest band.
Same with the Backstreet Boys.
They were huge.
They were huge. They were pretty much the beginning of that whole fucking kind of weird band boys back again.
Yeah.
So I don't blame him for being an asshole, but I do blame him for ruining a lot of time they could have had together doing much better music.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They could have had at least one more good album, you know?
Easily.
Hey, they're back together now. Let's see if they can get together.
I heard there's about 4 or 5 songs already together, so we'll see.
Is Izzy Stradlin playing with them or no?
No, he's pissed. He's pissed. There's a lawsuit going with them because apparently when the tour came out, he was guaranteed. He came out the first day of the tour and he played with them. And according to him, again, this is Izzy, that he was guaranteed to be on the whole tour. And they were like, "No, man, we just put you on for the day." You know, to put you out there to get you a payday. But again, I think he's in and out of rehab constantly. You got $1 billion tour going on. You can't worry about a guy being too fucked up to not play.
Yeah. You don't want that.
Yeah, it's not back in the day where that shit's cool. You know, there's now there's investors. There's fucking, you know, corporate people involved. Like, they don't give a shit. They're like, fuck you.
Yeah,
we got YouTube. We'll find somebody better than you.
Right.
Dude, think about
replaceable.
Think about corporate people. There's corporate people everywhere now. Even in wrestling, there's corporate people. It's fucking corporations are taking over.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they want their bottom line. They don't give a fuck about your creativity. They want the bottom line. That's it.
No.
They want money.
That's why bands don't even get second chances. If the first album doesn't do well, they cut you.
Nope.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, you'll not, like a band like the Stooges, could they have existed today? Hell no.
No.
They would have made one album, it bombed, and they would have gone into obscurity.
You know,
dude, look at Nirvana. Their first album, Bleach, didn't do shit. It's a great album. Didn't do shit.
Yeah.
Oh no, that album was canned.
Yes. Where they've been then? I mean, I laugh at this one, and I don't want to go off topic. But In Bloom has 2 videos. The first video, which was their first single that came out, wasn't Smells Teen Spirit. It came out and it sucked.
Yeah.
And MTV wouldn't play it. And then Smells Teen Spirit came out, and they're like, "Oh shit, let's re-release it. Let's re-release In Bloom." And they did it, and that became number 1. Like, people seem to forget that was the first single on that album. They just never released it.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was good. Those albums was good. Those first 2 Nirvana albums were very good, but they didn't get the credibility or shit because people were just not listening to it.
You know, John, we're going to be doing a show in a couple of weeks about the Nevermind album. You want to be?
Oh, yes, I'm in.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, Rob.
So, guys, thank you for another great episode of the Rock Show, the making of Appetite for Destruction, episode 70. And, guys, remember, have a good one. Be safe and don't get drunk. Get lumped up. See you soon.
Later, bitches.
Take care, people.